Hello, I'm Dr. Duke, and this is the Campus Roundup at the College Fix. This week we're looking at the most outrageous and popular stories of the 2018-2019 school year. There are some great ones on this list. To talk more about this, we welcome College Fix editor Jennifer Cabani. Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
What another great year for the College Fix. It's almost like if you sat down with pen and paper, you could not make up some of the things that we covered this year. And there seems to be no shortage in our universities of, for lack of a better word, insanity.
Oh, yeah. It's real life has surpassed satire when it comes to what's going on our college campuses today.
Start with our first selection. Professors allow students to pick their own grades. What's the rationale behind this?
Well, this is a trend that we're seeing more and more where professors offer contract grading, where essentially they allow the student to choose whether they want an A, B, or C, and tell the student, well, if you only want a B, you only have to do this much work, and if you only want a C, you only have to do this much work. So it's definitely not preparing them for the real world.
Well, the real world of progressivism, maybe, but certainly not how things function in the business world. That's a really great story. What school is that at?
Oh, all over. A lot of professors across the nation are offering this contract grading more and more because they're arguing that it's less stressful on the students if they can just choose their own grade. But as an employer, I've never said to a potential employee, well, do you want to do a great job, a good job, a mediocre job? I mean, in the real world, you're expected to hit it out of the park or at least try to. So stress or no stress, it's not preparing students for the real world.
The next story, I think, is also really kind of shocking. More Yale freshmen identify as LGBTQ than conservative, a new survey finds. This is kind of stunning to me, given how relatively low the population of LGBTQ people is versus the entire population of America. Yale University freshmen. Yeah,
so they surveyed the incoming freshmen coming in, and they found that only like 2% identified as very conservative, and a handful of 4 or 5% identified as somewhat conservative, compared to 9, 10, 12% on the LGBTQ spectrum. So it's kind of interesting sign of the times, the type of admissions processes that going on at Yale nowadays.
Yeah, obviously they're selecting for this. Obviously, checking certain boxes gets you put to the head of the line. We also know, for a matter of fact, at these schools that it's the box ticking that matters, in the sense that we see what's happening with high-scoring Asian kids who can't get into Yale. These are kids who are acing the ACTs and the SATs, but they're being passed over because there are, quote-unquote, too many of them to make room for these privileged groups, these preferential groups.
Yeah, absolutely. The admissions offices are sort of pick and choosing which students they want to admit, and it's definitely not unbiased and meritocracy.
We're also seeing, Jen, a real uptick in sort of scary behavior, violent behavior, threatening behavior against non-progressive kids on campus. How about this third story? Make Them Scared website posts uncorroborated sexual assault claims against male students. Where was this?
This was up in Washington, the state of Washington, and they allowed students to make claims that they were raped or sexual assault, and they published the name of the alleged perpetrator with no court case, no criminal verdict, just allegations, which of course goes against everything that the Constitution stands for, due process, and the right of being innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Yeah, this carries the feminist maxim, believe all women, to its logical conclusion. You don't need evidence, you don't need corroboration, you don't even need a formal legal charge at the university or in a court to be able to call out men, particularly boys at these colleges, and try to ruin their lives.
Yes, now this website was reportedly, allegedly run by students at the University of Washington. Of course, the university itself disavowed any connection with the website whatsoever, but it certainly is reminiscent of what we're seeing on college campuses across the nation, where students, mostly men, are being railroaded by these kangaroo courts after they're accused of sexual assault, and they really don't have any legal rights to defend themselves properly. So,
number 4, we have porn star giving college students an introductory lesson into BDSM. That stands for bondage, discipline, and sadomasochism training. Where was this?
This was over at the Claremont McKenna College and the sister colleges, Pomona, Scripps, Harvey Mudd, Pitzer. They're all located in the outskirts of Los Angeles County. And they're preppy, private schools. And in fact, Pomona is considered one of the best colleges in the nation. But yeah, they invited this porn star to teach them about BDSM. She starred in such films as Everything But, Electro Sluts, and Kink University. So I'm sure she had a lot of fun teaching these kids about, I guess, like you said, how to tie each other up and real college cutting edge stuff.
It is odd to me, again, if you posited this kind of violence or sexual violent play in any other context, I think the university progressives would be outraged by it. But somehow, when it's a porn star and this is a part of a sex week at a university, our scruples against violence against women seem to diminish pretty dramatically. Story number 5, university hosts critical look at whiteness for now. You could have probably bundled 7 or 8 topics into this one little number. The proliferation of whiteness, critical look at whiteness. When did whiteness come to be a catch-all for everything evil in the world?
I think it's been for the last 5 years, we've seen more and more of it where everything is being viewed through the lens of race and skin color and gender identity and sexual identity. But in this particular case, over at Cal State San Marcos in Southern California, every year they have this critical look at whiteness forum. And this year, some of the displays included that the Christian cartoon VeggieTales is racist because the villains are vegetables of color. They had the NFL is racist because most of the players are black and the coaches and owners are white. They had another display suggesting that white women who support Trump are racist and advance white supremacy. So this is what passes for scholarly studies nowadays.
Yeah, this is the direct consequence of this new fad, intersectionality. What started to happen across campuses is gay groups and feminist groups began to clash, transgender groups and traditional gay groups began to clash. And so they had to come up with a reason that you can blame all of these internecine squabbles on white people, and hence white studies was born, critical white reflections on whiteness were born. Number 6 is really kind of tragic, it seems to me. Moms and dads, mothers at home are in shock as they send their kids to college for the first and second year, and their daughters are coming home from college with mustaches, with their breasts removed. They've been given radical hormone treatment, and mom who has no idea it was even happening.
Yeah, I think the latest count was well over 100 colleges and universities nowadays offer in their medical plans transitioning services, whether you said like hormone therapy and also gender altering surgeries are covered. And so I was actually contacted. These were secular progressive moms, left of center moms who contact the College Fix to tell their stories because they're shocked at what's going on and the radical changes they're seeing in their daughters, mostly daughters. And this is a trend that we've now being called rapid gender onset dysphoria, where the students are sent to college. They're looking for an identity. They're trying to fit in. They're told their gender is fluid, and the next thing you know, they're identifying as a man and signing up for hormone therapy. And I mean, one mom was saying, gosh, her daughter came home, she had a mustache covered in acne, didn't even recognize her own daughter. They're really quite sad and shocked and wondering what to do about this. Again, these are secular progressive moms on the left.
Yeah, this is happening within a semester or two of the kids getting to college. It goes to show you how radical and dramatic the emphasis on gender fluidity is when you step on campus. This is not something that they're hearing randomly in the hallways. This is something that's being incorporated in their introductory material, in the dorm life, in their classroom life. It's a pretty serious onslaught to get kids to react this fast. And moms and dads, like you said, even progressive moms and dads are very concerned about it. Our 7th story, more than 1,000 scientists sign a dissent form from Darwinism, a statement dissenting from key aspects of Darwinism. This is a kind of a head scratcher. Somebody who's taught in universities for 25 years. Darwin is what the Bible used to be in the Middle Ages. You took it for granted, you didn't question it, and you were suspicious of people who did. What's going on with some of these actual scientists on college campuses?
Well, I didn't. We have this. So we're going over some of our most popular articles of the school year, and I wanted to include one positive one, just so everybody knows. I mean, there's still people out there fighting the good fight. But essentially, these are scholars from across the nation, some still at, teaching, some retired, but they're essentially saying that they're skeptical that the claims for the ability of random mutation and natural selection to account for the complexity of life. So what they're seeing now with all this advanced technology is DNA that's more complex than any computer code that humans have ever written. And they're saying that this can't come by chance. This can't come by random mutation. So they're just taking a stand against the concept of Darwinian evolution and saying we got to, they're not necessarily endorsing intelligent design or creationism, but what they are saying is Darwinian evolution does not account for what we're seeing here with DNA and the incredible complexity of life.
We move to number 8. We're back to white privilege. We've seen critical whiteness studies. Now we're back to white privilege. And this one really blows me away because it seems like a tautology. White privilege lecture tells students white people are dangerous if they don't see color. I'll bet you, or race, I bet you could rewrite that. White privilege lecture tells students white people dangerous if they do see color.
Well, there's this scholar, Rachel D'Angelo, who goes around and gives lectures on college campuses across the nation that essentially tells white students that they're inherently racist, whether they know it or not, and that if they don't see other people's race, then they are racist even more so, because white privilege. And so, students are basically told right off the bat, you don't know anything about their background, their history, what they've been through, their challenges. I mean, white students are essentially judged by the color of their skin and not the content of their character or their past or anything they've gone through. So it's a really troubling trend.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that kids who aren't white are never called out on this, right? That the idea that minority kids would see race or would not see race, we don't even bother to investigate that. It's as if, from their perspectives, they are completely neutral, while the white kids are completely guilty at all times. And so, number 9 kind of feeds into what we've been talking about. University hosts no whites allowed faculty and staff listening sessions in the name of inclusivity. Again, we're back to the idea that highly educated academics either don't know the definition of words or choose to remake those definitions. How can something like this be inclusive when you're eliminating all white people from a seat at the table?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the irony of it, right? Nothing brings people together like dividing them by race. In fact, we got this news tip from a white professor at Wake Forest who joked, I guess I'm not invited, So again, they just, the administrators, the diversicrats, the people who are in control of higher education prioritize identity politics over just plain scholarly academic work and study. That is the trend we're seeing on higher education, and it's getting worse and worse.
It is getting worse when you consider the fact that the vast, vast, vast majority of these university administrators who are implementing these inclusivity programs that exclude white people are themselves white. It is odd. It is white people engaging in high-level forms of racism, but getting a pass because they're white while excluding nobody else from white supremacy. It's very bizarre. We have a high school that may erase a mural of George Washington because it, quote, traumatizes students. How does that work exactly?
Well, because George Washington owned slaves. So, obviously we can't think about him, study him, or ever hear his name again.
Right, and in the mural in particular that we're talking with, he's not pictured with slaves. There aren't slaves the picture doesn't show him abusing African American people, but just the image now in our high schools and some of our colleges, just the image of a Thomas Jefferson or a George Washington is enough to cause triggered social justice warriors to demand that the artwork be censored or removed, and universities seem all too happy to agree to that.
Yeah, we chronicled how many universities have done away with artwork, and it's dozens and dozens. I mean, Columbus gone, Woodrow Wilson gone, Thomas Jefferson almost gone.
And that's the bonus story that you threw in here, number 11, trending. Universities nationwide removing historical artwork that they deem offensive. And that's the thing that gets me. Some books like To Kill a Mockingbird or Huckleberry Finn are now being purged from universities because they use the N-word. But then you've got situations like this where you have simple representations of reality from 100 years ago that don't match the diversity today, and that somehow becomes hateful.
Yeah, we should tell our young people that we need to learn from our past and remember our past, or aren't we doomed to repeat it? Or so the saying goes.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the idea, if you're going to play this game, don't just stop with artworks. You're going to have to eradicate any books written before 1960 Jim Crow. You're going to have to do away with all painting, sculptures, anything. Libraries are under attack, right? The idea that libraries, one professor was arguing, books and books and books by white authors standing next to each other. Libraries, museums, where there's not enough space on the walls for African-American lesbian women of the 19th century. And so therefore the university, the library, the art museum itself is participating in white supremacy. That seems to be one of the main takeaways from this top 10 list. We see white supremacy now in pretty much everything all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of use the term slippery slope several times in the Roundup because, again, whether it's, the gender identity stuff, whether it's the censoring of the artwork, whether it's blaming more and more things on white people, it's just, we're on a slippery slope and we're heading down it fast. And it's not really clear whether there's any solutions in the offing that are going to stop this trend.
Well, one good thing we're doing is the College Fix and having student reporters doing really fantastic work getting these stories out. Jen, the College Fix, again, is working hard with these budding journalists who write these stories at a very high level, very professional. It's been a great pleasure to speak with you and everyone at the College Fix for this year. It's been a great year. The College Fix is an increasingly invaluable aspect of our culture. Thank you for all the hard work you do, and we'll be back again, hopefully in the fall, with another. Hopefully you'll get better in the fall of 2019. Hopefully we have something to look forward to moving forward.
I'm telling you, every year I always kind of wonder what's going to come next. And I don't mean to sound negative because I'm actually a really positive person, but it's incredible what's going on in our colleges and universities today. And that's why we're writing on these things, because we want parents to know, we want politicians to know, we want watchdogs to know, we want the students to know, hey, look at what's going on campuses today. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and the only really important thing we as parents give our kids that they carry into their adult life is their education. And if their education now is dedicated to fads and vogue and anti-scientific gossip, if it's dedicated to conformity and monolithicness and groupthink, we're doing them a really, really big disservice. And so the College Fix is an important part of this, I think, in terms of getting moms and dads information they need to make better decisions.